All right. So I'm gonna let people file in here. I know it's a lot to unpack. It's nothing really else for us to talk about here. It's a lot to talk about, obviously, but the main thing on the plate, you know what it's gonna be about. So it's a funny thing that we're gonna have to discuss in a funny way, because the censorship is real. It's definitely constant. So as you may know, I'm suspended on YouTube now at the moment. So we're gonna have to tiptoe a little bit, but I'm gonna make it easy for y'all. So there is no J in Hebrew, right? So we should just pronounce things correctly and call it Jewish or you. And I feel like that'd be a nice way to actually just be correct. Honestly, it's not even like being politically correct or anything. You're just being actual, factual. So to get into it, something I really wanted to talk about, which I post a lot of things that I'm probably going to talk about today. But as far as the bloodlines, obviously, I always go in about the Rh negative bloodlines and everything, and you know the resets and the hijacking of the timeline, so that there could be this injection of false history, so that the graph could or the recessive could dominate the history or the timeline or the perception of the timeline that we're experiencing and looking back on. So when you're looking at Latin, right, the Latin language, this there is the C's are always hard like K. Like when you read Caesar, which would have been in Latin, it'd be Kaiser. It'd be Julius Kaiser. It wouldn't be Julius Caesar. It's Julius Kaiser. So you look at that word itself and you break it down even further. Like in Germany, you had the Kaisers. Like you look at all around America, they got Kaiser Permanente. And we're going to get into all the monopolies that the Kaiser bloodline runs. So the Kaisers of Rome, which is the Caesars, that's just one bloodline of people. So you got the Kaisers, the Romans that took the Western Roman Empire, went from Italy to Britain, and then the Eastern would be like the Byzantine, that took all over. I mean, the whole Mediterranean, all the way into the Near East, and then you have the Khazars, which is another spelling of Kaiser. The Khazars or Khazars would be the Caucasus, the people that live in the Caucasus, and these the the Khazars, they converted to Judaism or Judaism. They were not um, Hebrew. They were not of the bloodline, the actual bloodline of what we're calling Hebrews or the true Israelites. They converted to Judaism because the Caliphate in the Middle East was Muslim, and they didn't want to be underneath the thumb of them, and they didn't want to be underneath the thumb of the Byzantines. So they became they converted into Judaism, and again, there's no J in Hebrew. There's no J in Latin either. It's damn. Somebody want to jump on the live. All right, but not so anyway, right? There's no J in Latin. It's an I. So even when you look at Judaism and written in Latin, it's an I. It's IU. Or if you look at justice, it's IU. Justus, judicial. So or E, like that's how you're looking at it. So Judah, Yiddish, Jiddish, however you want to look at it. There's no J. So it's a U. So when you're looking at the again, like I said, you got the West is the Kaisers or the Caesars. Then you have the Khazars. Then you have the Kaisers of Germany, Germanic, or the Nordic and Germanic tribes. Then you have the Czars of Russia, CZAR. It's all the same bloodline. Khazar is the same as Caesar. It's all the same folks. So it's basically a massive identity theft of all these cultures, and they get to parade around like as if they're different people because they breed or crossbreed with the the locals of those regions. And then you have a crypto you. Again, I'm replacing the J all throughout this conversation just to establish that in the beginning of this live. It'd be a crypto you, and that's who is going to run the crypto, or who does run the crypto, is the Knesset. But anyway, I just wanted to start off like going into that as far as like what people are even calling a you, or what I'm saying. That is it's a misnomer, really, because again, the Israelites, everybody in the Bible would is not they would not be considered that bloodline of people. You look, whether you call it the bloodline of Adam, the bloodline of Shem, excuse me, the bloodline of Shem, and that's where they say Jesus came from. And again, it wouldn't be Jesus. It would be Jesus, or it would be Isa, like the Muslims call him Isa, because there's no J. So J is an invention around 600 years ago, and that's around the time when the timeline's being hijacked. The Dark Ages, and then you have Scaliger and them as you have the Renaissance period, where you have this timeline manipulation, where they have this injection of at least 700 years, but I'm saying 1,000, and so I'm saying it's probably really actually the year 1022 and not 2022. So you had this usurpation of all these different cultures by this creeping parasite, basically. This fallen seed line, whatever you want to call it. So I just wanted to go into that before I get into the the specifics of what we was talking about with obviously what just happened this weekend with Ye. So as you guys may know, I actually know Nori, and I know Nori. I see Nori at least probably once a year. The guy that's the host of Drink Champs. He, Nori just trying to, he's in a compromised position to where he can't even really. I know he probably feels a lot of what Ye is saying, but he's so compromised that he can't, he's so dependent on the use. So there's nothing he can really say or do, and so he has to go on the apology tour at this point, and it's kind of expected. You know what I mean? I'm kind of just glad that at least he, platformed him, and you can expect it, really. You can expect it with Puffy. You know what I mean? Because Puffy owns Revolt, and Revolt is who platforms Drink Champs. So you kind of can see, what's going on here, and obviously Puffy's a very compromised being, or whatever you want to call that. So when it comes to Kanye, I just really feel like so much of Kanye, the delivery, like he said in the interview itself, he doesn't like to read and he doesn't like to work out. So I feel like so much of that is why this is happening in this manner. If he actually did take care of himself and he actually did read, his delivery would be a lot better. But he's so sugared up and so nervous. Like you said, he's jealous, but really it's just nervousness. Throughout the video, he was saying, like, I'm jealous of yous. But it's really just nervousness, a deep nervousness from what he's put in his body, what his lineage has been putting in their body. So it's to be expected at some level, you know what I mean? And it's the thing that's alarming, if you however you want to look at it, is he's inevitably going to go through the Nipsey effect. Somebody that actually has been exposed to certain information, but tries to keep their head in the sand, and like he said in the interview, he eats Denny's. And I seen like a few months back he was eating McDonald's. So like he is too aware to be doing certain things, So but that's why he's trying to skip the steps. And it's like you can't really, I know, like, the Tupac shit is like, if you get your money right, you can go to war. But you really got to get your mind right before anything, and your body is your mind in 3D. So really so much of it, Kanye is also in a compromised state physically. Like, he just possessed. It's really that simple. Most people is possessed though. So it's not like I'm saying like he's just like this random possessed person or something. So like you just look at it like, you know, he's a person that knows, like in the Drink Champs #2, in his second Drink Champs, he was saying, the previous interview with Drink Champs, he was saying that we should be building our own communities and eating the Sebi diet. It's the same thing. It's the Nipsey effect. It's like, man, you're gonna run into a brick wall if you don't apply it and you just talk about it. You know what I mean? Like Nipsey was taking the products, he's taking the herbs, but you got to really be, it's holistic. You have to completely commit your entire being to health and the opposite of ignorance, really. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean as far as him not wanting to read and not wanting to work out, as he said in that interview. It just shows, you know. Kanye shouldn't have the fat face at 45 years old. You know what I mean? His face is so swollen, you know, but he been compromised for a long time, you know, and it's a deep arrogance. And this is what I mean by when people, when darker people breed with pale people, especially when it's dark men breeding with, you know, pale women. It's like it's a deep arrogance to think that you can actually bypass the laws of life and the designs. And you know, you can do whatever you want to do, but you're gonna pay for it one way or another. You're gonna pay. So he bound his soul to basically a fembot. You know, he tied his soul, and that's what we call or what Pharaoh would call a soul-bound being. And that's somebody that's not really different than a you. You know, a you or RH negatives are spirit-bound. Somebody that is from the matrix itself. They, like a soul comes into the matrix and can go to different levels, right? If you're RH negative, the likelihood of you being bound to this matrix is high. You know, most of them, if not all, are going to be so bound and so dependent, you know, on the parasitic system. They're really not separate from it. They are the matrix. It's like a character in a video game that's in a certain level of the game. They never leave. They stay in that room, and you never see them outside of that level. That's where they're at. And basically, Kanye got into the room and grafted himself or bound himself into that room, and now he's bound. You know, his soul is now bound into it. Now he's passed the torch on to his children to have to figure this out, to where they're going to have to realize, like, man, my father was possessed, and my mother is, you know, basically a black hole, you know, in a lot of sense. Because like Kanye said, he was like, y'all, he said that him, Reggie Bush, and Ray J was all the same video game character. Basically saying that they're fragmented being, that, you know, she's basically this Black Widow that is, you know, just catching this certain type of being, a certain type of archetype in the web and consuming them. And they think that they're being dominant with, it's like a deep arrogance, man. It's a deep sense. It's the same thing like when I run into females that feel like their vagina is the vagina that's going to change me. It's a deep arrogance. It's a deep pride, you know, and pride is fear, you know, and it's all just coming from the nervousness, you know. And that's why I feel like Kanye's so compromised. You know what I mean? He's already compromised himself in probably ways that he does know and ways that he doesn't know. You know, I've met Kanye in real life, not in the simulation, if anybody knows what I mean. I met him in real life back when my name was GZUS, right before he came out with the Yeezus album. Kanye, he, like he said, man, certain things are in order, but he's just compromised in other areas that are binding him to certain commitments and to be a certain way. It's the same thing with Candace Owens, you know what I mean? Like her husband is also pale. So it's, you know, it's never going to connect with someone that looks like Kanye and Candace Owens the same as it would if their significant others were not pale. Because like if you're dark skinned and your parents is both dark skinned or brown, whatever, copper color, whatever you want to say, then that's your reflection. So that's what you see, you know, that's what you come from. So when you see Kanye deviating from that, then it's like contrary to your reflection and your experience. And the same thing for Candace Owens, you know, and again, she got the fake hair. So it's like the deep mental disorder that a lot of people don't even have the balls to say. You know, people don't even have the gumption to say this. I don't really have anything to lose because I know that assimilation on either side for me is impossible. So it's like, you know, I just have to live in truth so that I can be released from this loop, this fucking samsara of just parasite loop. So, um, like you look at Kanye when he was going through the list of people that he was talking about, you know what I mean, throughout that broadcast, he was like, um, he was saying like Lupe, you know, Lupe, you know what I mean, like Lupe's a threat basically. But I'm like, man, Lupe, you're just scared of him because he does karate and your body's not in shape, so you're physically afraid of him. You're nervous. Everything Lupe promotes the, again, another, you know, I gotta edit myself here. I'm gonna call the V word Maxine Waters, like that bitch, that terrible bitch. So the Lupe he's actively promoting the Maxine Waters. So for Kanye to, you know, say like, look, the Clintons are pushing on Kim and different celebrities to push the Maxine on black people. That, you know, it's like you can't have it both ways. You know, you have to be totally honest. You know, it's not logic if it's not being applied universally. So like you look at, again, like you look at Lupe. Lupe's out here saying like, you know, that we should get the vaccine, and obviously like what he was saying about the Clintons. You know, they were, you know, compromising Puffy, compromising Meek, and all these different people, and either keeping them silent or making them be active about it. So you know, it's just it's a lot, you know, there's a lot of principles that are not being respected because they were never really discovered. They never really discovered enough to be applied to be respected, you know? Like if Kanye would have really went through that process of detoxing and changing his lifestyle, then, and his meal style, whatever you want to say, then he would be unable to keep his head in the sand. And again, like that ignorance is not going to protect you. You know, everybody thinks that like, oh, well, if I'd never experienced this, then I don't have to, you know, be held accountable in a sense, because that's really what it is. Like if I'm being ignorant and I never figure out what the correct way to behave is, then I don't have to ever be held accountable. I can just keep my head in the sand. I can just keep going through these same challenges that I know the answers to, and I'm just keep giving the wrong answer at this one point in the loop, so that I can just keep going through the loop and abusing the loop and abusing myself. So that's pretty much what Kanye and all of them did. You know what I mean? That's what Lupe. I mean, that's what Nipsey did. You know, and yeah, I don't know. I got a bunch of little notes here. You know, I really think people should check out this one page though, man. I don't know, it gets deleted all the time. It's called Jurassic Liars. Just replace the Y with the J. Jurassic Liars, like Jurassic, but spelled like you, like the yew plant, like the yew tree, which is a poisonous ass tree. That, you know, he had a bunch of videos, you know what I mean, where he was talking about the different names, because he gets deleted all the time. I bet you they're gone now, but you can maybe get the gist of it if you watch some new stuff he got going on right now. But you can see it like Sarah Silverman, you can see it like Bob Barnes, you can see it like it expresses itself in so many ways when people got that double initial, or they got the man in their name, or they got the son in their name. So many of them people are the cryptos that I'm talking about in the beginning. Either they're full on you or they're cryptos. So we're really surrounded in a lot of, and people think that they always like falsely claim that they're only 2% of the population. But if you look at the religious makeup of the world, they say 15 to 17% is irreligious or non-religious, and those are mostly the U's. So plus the 2% that are orthodox, or they come out and say that they are U's openly, you're probably operating anywhere from 17 to 19% of the world. That's like 1 in every 5 people almost are this, you know, this thing. And so That's the bloodline. It's all really a bloodline. Because again, you can Google it. The Oriental U makes up a great deal of the Rh negatives on the planet. And you know, Columbus Day just passed. A lot of people talk about Columbus being a U, and because he's from Spain, even though he was getting money from the church in Italy, he was a Spanish U, and they were getting ran out at around 1400s out of Spain, and so that's again the whole propaganda from that story is that this U came over here, basically forged a way for the transatlantic Holocaust or whatever you want to call it. But the same people pushing that lie are pushing the other. Got to find another word for the H word that we can't talk about. Oh man, the nullo cost. So like, yeah, when it comes to that, like, they're both lies in a lot of respects. Because you're looking at it like this, right? They say 5-6 million people died in the null Holocaust. So if you look at the population of America and the inflation of America as far as the population during that period, and then again the formation of Israel, you can see that a lot of these people left, changed their name from like Roger Stone. His name was Roger Stein. It changed from that to Stone because it means the same thing. Stein means stone. So they changed their name to anglicized names, and then they get marked as a casualty or a death. And so now you have 6 million people supposedly. Hundreds of thousands of people did die as a world war. And a lot of them going to die from typhus, though. A lot of them going to die from, just hunger and, just war. A lot of different ways of dying. It doesn't really make sense to just kill people off. You want to take their assets, and then if they have physical labor abilities, then you use them as an asset. You don't just wipe them out. You use them. So it doesn't really make sense to wipe them out. And then on top of it, again, the guy with the little mustache, they say he was part U. And there's a lot of things again like with that. Like, he's vegetarian. He's using the universal Big Dipper symbol that goes around the North Star. If you look at if you Google Big Dipper and the North Star, you can see that's where that. I can't. So many things I'm held handcuffed. I can't really say because I'm gonna upload this to the YouTube. So I gotta tiptoe around some of these words, but if you just look at some of these things, then you can really make a case for like, hey man, these people, this is a massive identity theft going on. Because so much of it is just that, the invasion of the body snatchers. You have a fallen being that appears to be, in multiplicity through all these bodies. This bloodline is really just no different than a mold that is, or a fungus that, you see it like you don't see it as like a bunch of different spores or nothing. It's all one mold. It's all one fungus. So, it's this fallen angelic bloodline. If you want to call it angelic or whatever. It's what a fallen angel is, a demon. So that is what too many people have crossbred with. And that's what I mean. Like, so many people are in a compromised state, man. Like, you look at, it's like you lose with so many things. Because like you look at let's look at Georgia, right? I'm gonna just jump around a little bit. We look at Georgia right now, and the smear campaign on Herschel, and I feel like Warnock bites his tongue. He can't even be fully honest. He's compromised. So many people are compromised in so many different ways, but the fact that Warnock holds that seat allowed them to spend 4.75 trillion in the last 19 months. So just that one seat in the Senate cost the American people 4.75 trillion. And obviously a lot of that is going like 100 billion, which is like a tenth of a trillion at least, has gone to Ukraine. Again, because we're talking about a bloodline, man, and these is Scythians. When we talk about the Ashkenazi, they come from the Budini tribe of Scythia. And so that's where the Rh negative is really congealing at. It already existed. You always have recessives. Recessives are just always going to exist. It's always going to pop up. You're going to have a recessive trait pop up. But when they congeal and breed together is when you have an issue, where you can get open vessels that can just be just open for walk-ins, for beings to just come through. And, you have possession, total possession. And what comes with that, obviously, the worst things can come from that. So, and with a lot of them, they are, like I said, most people are possessed. You got a lot of people that are possessed and they know that they are a parasite, but they don't ever go out. They never deviate out of certain parameters because they know that something is bigger than them. But it's not really that something is bigger than them. It seems as though there's this massive structure, but the parasite's always mimicking the creator. And the creator is a producer and a parasite. The producer is sublime, right? The producer is ineffable, invisible, or inner visible, however you want to look at it. But the producer is so sublime and so small or so not material that it's in a place where it controls everything. Like they say, the greatest leader is unknown, and then the next best is loved, the next best is feared, and the worst is despised. So the parasite, again, everything is just mirroring. It's kind of constantly mirroring. It's changing the names changing the language, flipping the words around, changing the names of places to where you think the West is East and the East is West. So now you got Lebanon and the Levant next to Israel, but the biggest cypress trees are in California. So it doesn't really make sense that Lebanon is the real Lebanon. It's all been flipped, and you got a New Egypt in New Jersey, you got Timbuktu in New Jersey, you got you got the Jordan River in Utah. You got everything's been flipped because the parasite can't create. All it can do is flip and mimic. It just all it does, scramble and mimic, confusion and mimic. That's all it can do. So I'm just saying that to say that the parasite is actually a small thing, very, very small thing, obviously. And again, like in Inception, in the opening scene, it says, what's the most resilient parasite? Is it a tapeworm? Da 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 da. It's a thought. It's an idea. That, and then it, that takes shape, that sticks or whatever, and then that idea gets you caught up in all these other attachments that manifest physical parasites inside and out. And so now those physical parasites have vehicles within you that are driven by this concept, which is a thought. And you were conceived as a being. You were a concept. You were conceived. That's what a concept, it's conception. So like when you're born, when you're actually, again, like I said in the last video, your real birth chart is when conception happened. It's not when you fell out of the pussy. It's really when conception happened. So you should do it from that point. So, or at least that's half the picture that's just not even acknowledged. So conception, when you're being conceptualized, is that whole point of leading up to impregnation. So two people meet, the energies between them bring them together, whatever, how you want to look at it, and then it congeals. You're conceptualizing a being. You're fathering a being. So that's what's happening. Again, you're conceiving. So that's the same thing as far as the parasite pyramid, is that it's a very minute thing and it's always going to appear huge, but the small changes all. The small things is like a rock in your shoe, change your whole stride. It's like, just those little things will throw off your whole sleep, whatever, or your whole recharge period, whatever, what have you. So those little things, it change the massive things. They snowball into huge things. So this is, like I was saying about the parasite pyramid structure of these beings, that are probably going to get offended because they do not know the system, really. They just know that something's supposedly bigger than them, whether they call it God or whatever it is. They're saying like, oh, there's something bigger than me, or like, people that just have unwavering faith in the system, whether it be the supply chain, the judicial system, the structures, the infrastructures all around us. People have unwavering faith in that more than a creator inside of them or around them. People have absolute faith in these systems. So most of the parasites, they know, like, I play my role. I don't step outside of bounds of my role. They know they're parasites. And that's why you get the agenda from the left, which really is kind of, it's so funny, man. Like, at this point, the left is a corporate puppet. So it's hard to really separate, the extremes in a lot of respects, whether it be fascism or communism, it's kind of the same thing. And so you get the agenda from the left that people are parasites, that people are a bane or a scourge to the earth itself, and then that they should not exist, or we should depopulate, and there should be less people, there should be abortion. You get this agenda constantly getting pushed on you, and it's true. It has some truth to it, and the people that identify with it, they have that spirit or that being in them, that they're not separate from that being. It's recessive in a lot of people, but it's still there. And the more that they feed that dog, the more that ideology takes hold and control of the body itself. And the body just gets used as a conduit. And they get scraps, they get different status in society and different things that comfort them, creature comforts, that sedate the body and create a false sense of security, which is not the real security, which is the creator, having alignment with the creator within you, and experiencing it within and around you. It's like if it's not in you, you can't experience it around you. If you don't have if you didn't have green in you, you couldn't see green. If you didn't have red in you, you couldn't see red. So if there's no creator inside of you, you're not aligned with that, then you can't see that. It's just not visible. You know what I mean? You have no inner vision. You can't see the invisible. The intangible. Like the Wahoo Ching verse was saying, telepathy, telekinesis, all of these things, clairvoyance, all of these things are remote. You can move things, you can communicate with people, but you can't communicate with the no mind or the oneness, because that's what heaven is. And that's what I was saying. Like, I've met Kanye in reality. I've met him in the oneness before, and I know I'm just gonna get called crazy for that, but people that know me have been following me for a significant time. They know my name was Jesus, spelled just the way as his album came out, is Jesus. And then now he about to buy Parler. Kanye, and he got on the Sebi shit, promoting the Sebi shit. People know, man. People know, and I'm not the only one. You know what I mean? That been chirping certain things, but I feel like since I'm such an amalgamation that I can say certain things that he can never say, obviously, and there's things that he can say that I can't say. But as far as like my holisticness, the things that I'm putting together, and the way that I can boil things down and really deliver certain things, and then embody it too, to really go through the fasting and go through the ups and downs of that, and never really deviating as far as my food is concerned. The challenges that Kanye is like it's like if you were never practicing, and then you just get thrown in the NBA. That's kind of where he's at. He's not practicing. He's not applying the things. He just conceptually knows them. And that's why I feel like he's been operating from a parasitic standpoint for a long time, at least since like 2003. Like, the College Dropout mixtapes was great, and then from the College Dropout itself down, it's just been less and less. Watch the Throne was all right, but if you look at, like, he's had more and more ghostwriters from that point. I mean, Jesus Walks, he didn't write that, Rhymefest wrote that. So he's already been in a place where he's just been a puppet, kind of, and people speaking through him. And that's just a mechanical sense. Like, somebody wrote the raps, he spoke through them. But it's not just that. That's just one example of beings speaking through his mouth. So I feel like the contrast has not been there, and then he's at this point now where he's so bound that everything's just going to come off emotional. It's not going to. He's not going to be intelligent because he hasn't applied and experienced certain things. He hasn't been going through fasting enough to know, like, oh, I maybe shouldn't say this. I maybe shouldn't do this. I haven't. He hasn't experienced certain things, so there's no governor there. Really, there's no experience to govern at that point, because that's really what eliminates the fear. Like if you jump out of a plane, you go skydiving enough times, you're not gonna be afraid of it. It becomes more exhilarating, or you just embrace it more. Whereas like, um, he's in a place now where the fear is basically totally dictating, like he said, operating from jealousy. He said he's jealous of the youth, and that is just fear. Again, pride is just fear. Envy, pride, sloth. All of these things are fear. All of these things are different shades of fear. It's not anything but that. It's never been another thing. So it's like they say, fear or love, and it's all about your alignment. So if you're not in alignment with your breath, because your breath is obstructed, then your breath is like your Wi-Fi. So you're not really getting the signal. You're not really in alignment with yourself, and yourself isn't aligned with the overall self, or however you want, God, creator, originator of life. So you're just getting everything from like a bent antenna. So now the love signal is coming off as fear. It's really only oneness. It's always oneness. But if it's like the telephone game where you say one thing in the classroom, and then as it passes around the classroom, by the time it gets to the end, it's totally changed. So it's really the same thing. It's like the signal goes off as love in the breath. That signal it's getting pushed through the ether of fearlessness and being. And then if your antenna's bent, then you're picking it up as conditional love. You're picking it up as, I need to be proud. I need to be almost arrogant. I need to be, all the things that are defensive, really. And that's all the things that's going to inhibit the being. Because, like, it's really just like, it's being or dying. Really, that's really what it comes down to. You either being or you dying. So again, like I was gonna say though, because I got my notes here. It prioritizes the fear to operate from pride. Now you're what you prioritized is what is not really important. What is important is being able to lay your head down at night with a sober mind, and be able to transition from this body to every night, or however you want to, whenever you're laying yourself down, so that you get more and more acquainted with being nothing, in a sense, being detached, or being everything, being one, to where when it does come time to actually transition out of this body, there's no fear. So if you're living, because all of that, your daily actions are all being generated off of fear. Again, people don't want to dream, because the dream is going to bring them back into alignment, and there's a lot of fear in the body, so that the self can't really come through. So the breath can't come through, and the breath is the carrier of the consciousness. No breath, no consciousness. So you have an inverted person once they go away from their dreams, and then their identity is this video game character, the subconscious or whatever, this physical encapsulated separate being, animal being, animated being. Once you go into that, then you're just going to prioritize fear, because your existence stops at your skin. There's no more like, if you look at it like a fruit, like a peach, it's like, say you're the seed, right? And then, the whole flesh is like the womb, or the earth that you're living in. And you're like a star seed, whatever you want to call it. So you're a seed, and you're inside, and there's no separation between the earth, the material, the flesh that you're in, and the seed itself. But if there's separation in there somehow, then you have this separation in logic, separation in identity, And again, that's where you can have a parasite creep in, and you have the identity theft. That's pretty much where we're at, where the real Israelites are beside themselves. They are not in alignment with themselves. Their breath is constantly being obstructed. They're constantly um, prioritizing fear and vanity. It's the same thing. So there's going to be an identity theft. Like soon as you give up that responsibility of expressing the way of God or the way of the Creator, the originator, or whatever, which is what the true Israelites are supposed to be doing, and as soon as you step away from that, then something will be your God. You know, like the Jay-Z line, he's saying like your fear is your only God. So like as soon as you step away from that responsibility, it's gonna just be pride to make you do it. Like why would you step away from your responsibility of expressing the Creator's way? You know, I wouldn't say any individual person is the Creator. They're an extension of the Creator, and they express the way of the Creator. And if they're in that alignment with, then there's no separation at that point. The body isn't separate from the Creator at that point, but the body is just an expression. It's just the echo. It's not the Creator itself. But if it's it's not an opaque expression, it's clear, then it resonates in the ether, and everybody else can get a better signal every time when they go to bed at night. They're getting the signal. If you have more people, especially the true Israelites, going to bed every night sober and clear and in touch with their breath and they're in touch with fasting, then the signal would just get clearer and clearer. The same way as like if you go into the deep woods, you don't get that. You lose cell phone service, but you get a different signal. You get the real signal. And then further you go into the false grid, the inorganic grid, the more that you're going to get the false signal. And then, you know, you're more on autopilot. You're more influenced by the external. And the external is more dominant than the internal, because the identity, it's all the identity. What are you identifying with it? And if your body is in stress, it's impossible to see past the bodily identity. So if you're in the grid, you're around so much ringing that you don't even know, because you got a light spectrum. Light is sound. So you have this vibration of all of these towers or whatever is around you that is constantly ringing and, you know, violating your body. So your body's being stressed on a sublime level. The same way, like if you went to the deep woods, you would be uplifted on a sublime level. You would be communicating with everything around you, everything that's in its natural state, that it's just there, that doesn't require the assistance of man to exist or anything. It exists because it just exists, and it's not dominating anything. It's just doing its job. Everything is in alignment with itself, so it exists. So when you come around it and you're in a deep forest like that, it's easier to get the signal to be yourself. But if you're not yourself and you go into the deep forest, then the fear is going to creep in more. It's not that it's crept in more, actually. It's just that you're going to sense it more. It's always been there. You know, it's funny, man. You see people that live in the slums and they come out here to Sequoia Forest and they be terrified in the middle of the night, especially when there's no moon and it's dark. They'd be terrified. I mean, these people could be, you know, potentially killers to their own. But then they come out into nature and then they really realize how much fear is in their body. And that's why people don't come into nature, because they don't want to know. They don't, you know what I mean? They feel like if they don't know, then they're protected. And at some level, you're right, you know, because the more that you do the wrong thing and you actually know it's wrong, the more you get punished way more. So people, they want to stay at their level, but then they don't get granted certain responsibility. And the more responsibility that you can handle, the more that you actually grow. And if you're just, you know, energy is responsibility. So if you're constantly just investing your energy into distraction, which is self-hate, the more that you just basically saying like, I don't, you're pushing away the self. So much of it again is the identity theft. It's like if you're a child and you were injured from vaccines, or if you were just injured emotionally, or if you had circumcision, or whatever it is, some people got touched, whatever it is, all of those things um, cause you to put up a shield. And that shield is the personality. You start to live in the personality, you start to comply to maybe the things that your parents or brothers and sisters or uncle or whoever abused you, whatever you were in, people at your school or whatever. You put that personality up to shield the essence, so people don't, because you feel wounded. Again, vulnerable means wounded. Vulnus means wounded. Vulnerable. So that's, if you go into those states of being around people while you're vulnerable, while you're wounded, you're gonna go right into the personality, and the personality is not reality. It's either personality or reality, really. So the more that you're in personality, the more that you're shielding your essence, because you feel like, I had to put up this front, this personality, this vein, vanity, right? There's something that it doesn't really exist. Vanity means hollow or empty. So you're putting this thing up that doesn't really exist, this personality, this thing that has no real roots in reality. It's just an amalgamation of learned behaviors and, again, like your knee-jerk reactions to trauma. You create this personality, the things you've seen, so the personality is a shield. So you go to a certain area, people talk to you a certain way, you're not going to say like, you're not going to talk in your true voice, because for one, you're not in touch with your breath, because you were traumatized as a child. So your breath got made really shallow, and you probably were stuffed with garbage food. So your body, your voice doesn't even really express itself through your body. So, and that's letting you know that it's not really expressing itself in your head. People that got raspy voices, all of that, nasally voices, the true voice is not coming through them. They're not really speaking with the whole vessel. So they're not really thinking with the real, it's an adulterated inner voice and external voice. You don't get it just one way. It's not one way streets, both ways. The way you communicate with others, if you lie to yourself, you're going to lie to others. If your voice is not correct inside, then it's going to be incorrect outside. So people go into work, they can't use their true voice. They go into certain neighborhoods, they can't use their true voice because their fear of the things that come with the false self, with this parasite personality. So you're using it as a shield to protect, because out of fear, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my respect. I don't want to start using words like this. I don't want to start pronouncing my words like this. I don't want to start being like this, because I'll lose my respect. I'll lose certain benefits that this parasite gets. And so I'll just let it live in my body, so that I don't ever have to address the fear that I'm experiencing when I'm not being a parasite, or when I don't have the energy to be the parasite. Because if you're carrying a parasite, you're going to have to feed it. So you create this shield of personality. And as the years go on, especially if you're traumatized real young, you never ever really realize the true you ever. So it's the parasite it works through that personality, and it's working through all the physical parasites inside of you, and it's shadowing you. It is like your shadow. It knows all the things that happen to you, all the things that you block out and try to ignore. It was present. It was aware for that. So it's using all that against you. Everything that you ignore, it uses against you. So the more that you ignore, the more that you get compartmentalized in your own body. And the true self really only exists for certain periods of the day, or around certain people that kind of demand you be your real self, because they're their real self more. So people get addicted externally to themselves through others that way. But most people don't ever really want to be themselves. So they stay shielding, and then the more that you do that, the more that you're actually shielding your true self from coming through. And every time, as soon as you invest in distraction, soon as you step away, like as soon as you eat more than a fist size in one sitting, soon because your stomach is the size of your fist, soon as you, so you should eat nutrient dense foods, or foods that don't take away from you, foods that don't dehydrate you, um, foods that don't rob you and are nutrient dense. If you had a fist size amount and you're in alignment with your purpose, that's going to be sufficient. And then when it comes time to refuel, you'll keep it appropriate. It'll all be appropriated. But whenever you do things, you're trying to escape through the food, through the binging, because the binging is what creates the alcohol, the fermentation. So that, expands the fungus. The fungus takes over more in the body. You get high, you do any hallucinogens. Well, especially if you haven't been thoroughly in touch with the breath and fasting, you're going to get further and further into schizophrenia and psychopathy, whatever. So the further that you're getting from your breath, basically, the further you're getting from yourself. And it's all distraction. So as soon as you step into that alignment with distraction and invest in it, the parasitic thoughts are going to come. And so much of it is not even realized until the detox process reaches a certain point. Because again, you take the chemical, the substances or the foods in, the endorphins get released. That's what you enjoy, really, not the food itself or the substances themselves. And as you process those endorphins, and then you start to process the food, and you're really going into the detox, then yourself is starting to come back into your body and starting to express itself more clearly. So then that's usually when people loop back and they eat again, they get high again, they have sex again, whatever it is, whatever escapism, whatever misappropriated thing of escapism, of distraction. As soon as you do that, you're just opening up the vessel, because you're creating separation between you and yourself at that point. Because it's wasteful. And anything wasteful is not in the likeness of the Creator. Waste not, want not, whatever, what have you. The cleanliness is next to godliness. Anything wasteful is not cleanly. So the more that you become wasteful, the more that you have separation from the body in itself. And the more that you have that separation, the more, again, the parasitic thoughts just get embedded. And it's just like a song on in the background that's constantly playing that you forgot that's even on. Like I was saying about being on the grid, on the artificial grid. You're constantly hearing this ringing. You just don't know you're hearing it. From the cell phone towers, from the Wi-Fi, all the electromagnetic pollution that you're experiencing, your body is actually hearing a ringing. It's hitting your body. You hear, every sense is touch. Your ears are being touched. Your eyes are being touched. Your tongue is being touched. Your skin is being touched. All of it, your nose, olfactory sense, it's all touch. It's all contact, So there's really only one sense at the same time. It's just different shades of the one of touch. So you got to just ask yourself, like, how do you want to be touched? Do you want to be touched by the false self? Do you want to be in alignment with that? Do you want to be within yourself so that you're touching yourself? So that, you're not eating more than you should. So then your bowels are all touching. So that there's not a bunch of any space between, voids between. And the more that you have those voids, the more that you have desires. So these are things that that most people have never experienced, because one reason or another, they get distracted by money or fame, and they continue to prioritize fear over justice, over reality, and they live in their personality, and they do all the things that will sedate the body to keep it in the personality, so that it never has to address the fear, so that it can continue. It's just like giving a parasite payment at an altar. Every time you do that, every time you get high, you just like, here, take this in and take this responsibility. And the parasite governs that energy for you and is your governor, and it becomes your God. So you have so many people that were grafts or cryptos that are part graft and part aboriginal, whatever. So many people that are that too, that they've been investing in this feeding the wrong dog for so long, their whole life and generations, that they really don't know. And so they feel like they're part of the structure. And at some level, it's true, they're part of the matrix. It's like a dog, a dog is a spirit bound being. It's or anything, a wolf. Let's say it's something that's more natural, wolf, something more wild. It's that being is bound to a certain arena, a certain area, and it loves that arena, and that expression is designed for that arena, and it doesn't deviate from that arena, and that experience is there for beings to come and experience from the inside out. However, but that spirit is going to express itself in that space. So it's the same thing with spirit bound beings and soul bound beings. They become bound to a certain arena, a certain part of the light spectrum, or the life spectrum, what you call life, um, or the multiverse, whatever. They're like a room in the multiverse. Let's say that, and say like they'll never leave this room. They don't have the capacity, or they won't give up the entitlements to be able to leave, to empower themselves and take on the responsibility to move on. So they stay in that place. They stay spirit bound. They're bound to that place. And if you breed with them, you're binding yourself to it. And then again, your children are going to have to realize like that my father made a mistake. My grandfather made a mistake. And, you might think that your expression in your lifetime is what determines you, but your children and your children's children is really, they're the ones that's going to have the last judgment, really, to say so. And really, the people in your tribe, or however you want to look at it, your bloodline. So a lot of people are just never going to give up those entitlements, and then they're going to instill certain things in their children because they want to stay in that loop. They want to keep the kids bound, making the same decisions as them, so they can come right back around and reincarnate through their kids, and then keep doing the same thing and the same thing. And it's just like being the 8th grader in 5th grade or something. And you just dominate the 5th grade. You know all the answers to the test, and you know how to do certain things wrong. You know what you can get away with, or what you're supposed to get away with. You never get away from yourself, though. So that's kind of what we're experiencing in this university. So, oh yeah, now so much of it, and I'm glad that Kanye really went in on this shit, because obviously in my last video I was talking about the same thing, and I think the video when I first started doing these lives, the next day the Queen died. Like it's been, every time, because it's a universal consciousness thing. So like I know that I'm part of the game board here too. So every time I have an expression come through me, I know like, oh, this is universal too, and it's the Tao, or the Tao, or the originator, what have you. And the conduit itself is expressing that. So I'm, privy to that. I know that. So I know like every time I do certain things and deliver certain things correctly, then it ripples, and then I'm going to bed every night a certain way to where I can connect with myself. So then I connect with others, and then they wake up more connected to themselves, because I'm going into my dreams, waking myself up in my dreams. Then I wake other people up in their dreams, which is really just reality or heaven, whatever we'll call it, what have you. And then they return to this place, and then less attached to the things that don't matter, so I feel like we reached a certain threshold to where Kanye, being a possessed open vessel that he is at this point, that he's made himself, it allowed us to penetrate. And again, I've already had that. I've had the connection with him in reality before, so it's a two-way street. He takes things from me, then I'll be able to express myself through him. So and the handlers too. So but and it was done to me. Like Pharaoh had did these things to me. He came into my dreams, showed me how vulnerable I was, how my memories were just available, and these things are just open for different things to be injected, different perspectives. Like when you see the memories clearly, then you're not gonna be attached to them. The more that you have a jaded perception of the memories of this infinite loop, the more that you can reside in the false self. But if you see things clearly, you can see the true love, or the true care. And I guess we could say care again is coming from cura, the same word for cure or curiosity. That's that childlikeness, and that's where you're getting closer to that creativeness or that Tao expression. That something that just like I just want to express myself in every way, and that expression entails these different vessels. So when you go into those memories and you can see like the oneness with the creator, with the curator, with the carer, the curious, then you can see like that you're not separate from the creator or the originator, and that there was immense care there that was like, let me create this vessel to see what it could do so that I can express myself through it. And the more that you can see your memories clearly like that, the more that you won't stay attached to them and see them in a jaded way so that you can move on from them. Because so many people are just trying to recreate the same memory. I had a good night at the club on Friday. I'm going to go next Friday. I'm going to go the next Friday after that. And I'm going to go the next Friday after that. I had this meal with my grandma when I was a kid, so I'm going to have it for the rest of my fucking life. And it's like, yo, you move on to new memories. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's just really, so much of it is just the attachment to the memories because you're not seeing them clearly. You go back, you see the ignorance too, not just the care. You see the ignorance, you see the fear, and you see like, oh, my grandma was making me this. This is stemming from a deep fear because they feel like we needed to eat this food because if we didn't, we'd be malnourished or we'd have a certain status or we'd appear a certain way. So now that I'm going back into the memory and I can see that, I can release that, and I no longer have to say like, because there's so much of an attachment, so many attachments there where you're like, if I stop eating this food, that means I don't love my grandma. That's bound up in the thought and the loop. Like, if I stop eating this food, that means I don't love my mom. If I stop going to this place, that means I don't love the people there. And it's like, no, it doesn't mean that at all. But at some level, do you despise the people that you could meet? Do you despise the memories that you could be making? Do you despise all the other opportunities that you could be creating that you're robbing yourself of? And the more that you rob yourself, the more that you're going to create external and internal robbers to take things from you. And they usurp your whole identity, and then you just come back more and more fragmented. So you say, look at Kanye's kids. They grew up, it's deeply embedded in them to suckle from a pale teat. It's deeply embedded in them to suckle from a pale teat. How can they not have some affinity with that kind of female? They gotta, at some level, turn their back on their mom and say, like, I love you, mom, but genetically, I don't want to go in this direction. And most people will not do that, man. And so this is how you get this dilution of a breed or of a bloodline, of a seed line, to where it can't even express itself fully because it's constantly binding itself and fragmenting itself more and more and more. And then so like 200 years from now, say if that trend continued and his sons continue to go in that direction, how would they even be able to recognize themselves? They will wait. They reincarnate through another pale womb, to another pale womb, to another pale womb, to another pale womb, to where they would look totally different. The structure of the face would be totally different. They would be a small remnant of what once was, and be basically completely discombobulated and lost. And that's where a lot of people have sent their consciousness. So many people have sent their consciousness in that direction. I see brothers, dark-skinned brothers, all around doing that. And I feel like a lot of it is like they want payback from slavery subconsciously. They want to dominate. They want to feel empowered or whatever. They want to step up in class. Like, Kanye, again, he bound himself to this fembot. Now he gets certain advantages in the society, in this matrix. But he's getting disadvantaged. He's getting more severed from himself at the same time. And so it's just about, your value system. Do you value the truth? And the truth is, Kanye's mom doesn't look like Kim. Her mom doesn't look like Kim. Her, you know what I mean? And so that's the thing, you know what I mean? That's what's going to get more and more broken down. The further people get away from themselves, the more that you just have a bunch of people that don't know themselves. And when the originators are doing that, then there's no leadership. There's no real leadership. And you can't even get mad at the youths because they're just coming in like a cleanup crew. Parasite's just eating what's already killing itself. As soon as you start killing yourself, you're attracting a parasite instantly. You're getting parasitic thoughts. Whether you know they're coming in or not, they're getting uploaded in the system and being circulated in the system. As soon as you do that, as soon as you step into distraction, the parasites are one with you at that point. It might be metaphysical, but the more that you continue to eat that cheeseburger every day at 3 p.m. or whatever, it's going to become physical. And then it's a physical parasite. And now you've completely synchronized and merged with this thing. You know, and then now it's driving you to breed a certain way. And then now you have a child and the child is infected. Because again, it's not like the parasites lay off. They get in the babies that are in the womb too. Whatever's in the blood. Whatever parasites is in the blood. It's all in the blood. They're moving through the blood. They're using the blood as a conduit to move their presence through. So much of it is that, man. I feel like so much of the issue is that, and people I feel like will never say it. You know, they're never gonna talk about it, and people will say like, "Well, Kim's not white or something." Like, you know, Armenia is Caucasia, basically. It's right on the Caucasus Mountains. Like, look, somebody Google the Caucasus Mountains, the proximity to Armenia. I think it's the same. I think it's part of Armenia. But and it's like I'm just calling a spade and a circle. You know, like Kim is a program. From one program to another, I know. Souls are souls. Some beings are just programs. You know, everybody has a self. There's a universal self that everybody's self is connected to. And you can evolve. Where, like, you know, you're a demon. You know, you can evolve into cherubim and then maybe seraphim, the different levels of angel. You know, you're going from Nephilim to fallen, from Nephilim to cherubim to seraphim, or to thrones. Thrones is another level between cherubim and seraphim. So, like, you know, the programs are there to make everybody better. Really, you know, it's just like Windows XP. You know, you update the program, everybody's communication gets better. You go to, what is it? I don't even know what the programs are now. You know, for the Windows or whatever they call. You know, went from like Leopard to Yosemite to, you know, whatever it was. You got these different programs, operating systems that are here. And as the souls, if the souls are being true to themselves and expressing the way of the truth, or the creator, the originator, God, the Tao, if they're expressing that, then people have a compass. So then the programs get better and better and better, and then they can work together. It's kind of like in the most recent Matrix, where they had some machines on their side, some programs were on their side, and, you know, like they say, the woman, the Oracle, she is a program, the mother of all programs. So, like, you know, she worked with, you know, the souls. Like, she's a program. You know, it's just a program. It can be used in one way or another way, and it can evolve and update into a better program, have a different perspective of life, and be utilized in a different way. And its relationship with the self or the creator, whatever originator, can continue to evolve. And it has a different path, just like kangaroos have a different path of evolution than giraffes. You know, let me use something even further apart. Like a shark and an ant have different paths of evolution, or a butterfly and a woman. The same, at some level, is the same because you're evolving, and that's the principle that's happening. But there's different levels, or different ways to the Tao, the way to the way, to remaining on the way and being the way, in alignment with the way, or the creator, originator, what have you. And if you're a soul, you want to breed with another soul. Even if you're a program, you can breed with a soul, and then the child come out as a soul, and then you can tell them what's what, and, you know, let them know what's what. But just think about it, like if two souls were to breed, it's just a greater launch pad if two souls that knew themselves breed, and then two programs that know themselves breed, then you get, two angels breeding or two souls breeding, and then it creates a more, a stronger, more, what's the word for it? Unified, a more unified vessel, instead of like a vessel that's like a part program, because everybody has programs that are there that you're supposed to be taken over, like a soul comes into a body, the body's programmed to do certain things, that certain, and you cannot refute this. You reach a certain point in life, you go through puberty, that's part of the program. You go through a different point in life, and your digestion, your metabolism changes, that's part of the program. So you want to be able to have an active role in the program instead of being a backseat driver in your own experience. You want to basically be the decoder. You want to be the programmer and experience the program instead of just being the program and that's getting manipulated. So I feel like that, people just need to take that into respect, and I feel like so many people they feel like they can override and bypass, you think you can, just because you're melanated, you can do this, or just because you're not melanated, you can do this. So much of it is, just disrespect of the designs, and every design, every being has its place where it's supposed to be. And if it was to evolve, everything else has to evolve with it. So, yep. Circulation is sanity. It's really that simple, man. What other things I got? Yeah, so it's more so about being in the moment, man. And again, if you're in fear, you're not in the moment. And the moment is pleasureless and painless. And the breath controls pleasure and pain. If you get hurt, you're gonna go right into breathing a certain way. Or if you get, if you're in ecstasy, you're gonna have to breathe in accord with that ecstasy. So your breath is determining your experience of pain and pleasure. And then once you reach a certain stage of breath, you experience that certain in touchness with yourself. Again, because it's one sense. As soon as you're in touch like that with the breath, then you experience being, and then you're no longer in desire. You're no longer in fear, because pain and pleasure are really just a byproduct of your alignment. If you're in alignment with the moment, then you get pleasure. Pleasure is just the echo of the alignment. It is not the alignment itself. If you're out of alignment with the moment, then you're going to experience pain. If you got a bunch of cells that are in alignment, then, and some that might be, then you're going to be in a state of confusion. Either way, that's the good thing about pain, honestly. It's a language that's there to let you know you're doing the wrong thing. But people want to be numb, so they never want to listen to the language. That's how you can have sex with the wrong person, though. Because again, sex is a language. It's a physical language. You're physically conversing or conversating. So your blood is expressing certain codes as a language, and your blood is communicating with their blood, and your breath is communicating with their breath. And if you're numb, then you won't be able to see that there's a lack of communication. It's nice to speak in language, and it's nice to have a common language, to think in a common language, especially if it's an older language. But it's also nice to not have to speak and to be able to converse in an intangible way. And if you're not in touch with your breath, then you're less in touch with the intangibles within you. Because again, the breath is sublime, something that if without it you die instantly. So it's the same thing as the creator. The further you get from the breath, the further you get from the creator. These are sublime controllers or dictators of all of life. And the more that you're in touch with it, the more that you know what the more that you know what is. the immaterial, because again, it's not like you can feel the breath. You can feel it as you expand your lungs to inhale, because again, you're pushing your lungs out to inhale, and then you contract the lungs to exhale. So then you feel yourself come in and out of you, in and out. Your consciousness is being carried. You're feeling that coming in and out of the vessel, or circulating through the vessel. And if you're not in touch with the breath, your breath's going to be more shallow. Your thoughts going to be more shallow. Your manifestation is going to be more shallow. Your dreams is going to be fearful. You're going to be having tidbits of your dreams. You're not going to be really transitioning from moment to moment in the dream and being present in the dream, or what you call a dream. Because again, there's a lot of that. Some of them are just hypnosis or trance states, but a lot of what people call dreams is actually reality. And this is just a simulation or a copy of that reality. So, well, another thing I wanted to say about sex too, like, you have the creative, right? And you have the masturbating. Masturbating is taunting the creator. You're bringing the creator to the surface, and then you reject creation. Pulling out is anti-sexual. Not completing the course is masturbation. Intercourse is sex, is creative. Anything that isn't that is just masturbating. You're just disrespecting yourself, and thus disrespecting the creator of all life, or all self, or whatever, what have you. So, yeah, man, it's really just the law of distraction. As soon as you distract yourself, you attract others that will distract you with you, and that's how it goes, man. That's really about it, man. And that's how you have sex with the wrong person, and that's how you become anti-sexual, anti-creation. And then you get a parasite, which is a program that's going to come through you, literally, figuratively, actually, come through you, and then supposed to teach you what you did wrong. But then people still continue to ignore and still continue to do the wrong thing, the things that flatter their vanity, and the things that give them creature comforts. So much of it is the vanity, like I was saying, man. And like I was saying in the post recently, like, you're only new once. So I feel like so many people are really caught up in the novelty, that novelty energy. When you meet someone, and it's that beginning stage of meeting them, and that whole process of meeting them, it's almost like meeting yourself again. You can be whoever you want to be, kind of, right? You like, oh man, I could tell my life story again, and I could be more honest this time, or whatever, right? It's like, and then omission is basically like silent lying. But I'm just saying, like, it really is like addiction to the novelty of things. So much of it is that, I feel like, because if you're not respecting the congruency, all you have is the novelty, and that just has to wear off. And so many babies are created from that. That's why Kim and Kanye not together. It's all novelty. Like he said, it's the energy. Like he said, he's the same as Reggie Bush. He's the same as Ray J. That means she's addicted to a certain kind of energy when it's fresh, before they have kids. Before Reggie Bush had kids and sent his consciousness down that line like that, before Ray J had kids and sent his consciousness down that line like that, their energy was more fresh, and she was addicted to that freshness. So she, is there as a program to destroy what's already killing itself. And Kanye happened to be another, a fragment of this same entity coming through, literally. And now that he's been basically astrally projected, in a sense, ejaculate projected through having a child, his consciousness is going already on its way through his child's child. That's already happening. He's already started that ripple. So he's not as present as he would be, because he had a child with the wrong person. And he's not physically present. He's not with the child. They're not all together, because it was about the energy. He wanted the money and the status and that energy that comes with that. She just wanted the raw energy because she's just a program, and the program just needs energy to run. Doesn't have its own natural energy. Doesn't produce energy. It's heterotrophic. It's not autotrophic like a being that knows itself is autotrophic. Or those that are innately autotrophic would be your aboriginals, but so much of that is dormant at this point, being an autotroph to produce your own food. Like algae is autotrophic or whatever, and it's like the basis of life for the ocean. It's the same thing in the human spectrum. The basis of life, we all depend on the autotrophic. The autotrophic, those that create for themselves, are who the parasites and everybody else that doesn't create for themselves, they live off of them. So if the autotrophics all become heterotrophic, then you have even more parasites, more people that don't know themselves. There's more this perception of overpopulation because it's misappropriation. People eating food that they don't need to really eat, but since they have a parasite that they need to fuel for the creature comforts and vanity, they're eating food that wasn't for them. And whenever you do that, you attract a parasite. It's going to manifest and be a servant for you and eat that for you because you couldn't do it. It wasn't designed for you, and you weren't going to be able to anyway. It's like if you eat sugar and fat at the same time, your body's not going to do both. You got different enzymes for different things. So if you eat multiple things at once, something's not going to get processed. So the parasites are like, all right, I'll handle this for you. But then you continue to do it, and you just get more and more lazy, and you get certain benefits because the parasite's starting to work through you, starting to, just like how the body's just a manifestation or a magnetic, electromagnetic manifestation dream machine that just manifests things, right? So the parasite starts to expand. Damn, my bad. Somebody tried to call me. So the parasite tries to expand in you, and it's doing the same thing. The parasite is attracting people to that body. It's just a body, like it's an archetype. It comes from an archetype. It might be a diluted archetype. It might be the actual core archetype that's possessed. It's a vehicle. So the parasite, as you start to share the body with it, it starts to use these tools. You go into your dreams, and then you use your dreams to connect with people, and you meet them in real life. You meet them online. The parasite is going into your dreams and using you to meet the beings that it wants you to meet so that it can drive your body to a certain space away from itself more and more so that they can use it as a platform to jump from. So that's pretty much where we're at, at this point, where there's this non-human entity working through diluted, empty vessels, and also true archetypes at this point. They've bound themselves and made contracts with these parasites that they share their bodies with, whether they know it or not. Most of them do know it. You do know it, some level. You do know it. So now you have, all the autotrophs eating food to fuel the parasite so that they can get the benefits that come with the parasite. I have this parasite now. Now it can bring me into the room where I can meet Kim Kardashian. So I'm gonna keep feeding this parasite. And he's dreaming it into existence. This dream machine's being used to manifest this from a long way out. It's not like it just happened. Not like you just bump into each other. This is all congealed. It's been conceived. The concept has been conceived of a long time ago, well before it actually physically takes place. So that's where we at, man. And I felt like I had to put a lot of this stuff in there because, I had to create that space between some of these points. I had to create that space between some of these points, man, because I couldn't just go right in and go hard the whole 2 hours or whatever this is. So the moment is what matters, man, and the moment is what materializes. What matters is what creates being in the moment. The further you are from the moment, the more parasitic. The more you're in the moment, the more you're going to attract creation. So anyway, when it comes to the realm that we're in now, there's this false scarcity being created as far as being liked. If you're not liked, because you have billions of people trying to be liked. They're trying to get likes. They don't want to be true. They just want to be liked. So the more that you have people doing that, it's just like any market. It just, now you have this perception of like, I'm not liked. So it creates this lack, and the more that you lack is desire. If you say I want something, you should say I lack it, right? So if you have this perception that's being, generally pushed around from people being online, the more that you're going to have this, it's going to breed more lack. Law of attraction. If you look at the absence of something, then it expands the absence. It expands the lack. You say, I don't have this, then you're going to give energy to not having it. So then the not having expands and continues, right? Perpetuates, right? So it's the same thing. If you got a bunch of people that want to be liked and they do things for likes, then they're not going to be themselves, because it's, again, it's just kind of like not everybody can be Drake. Drake is pretty much generally liked. Generally people like Drake, whether they like to admit it or not. His music's not going to offend you really. It might offend you at some level because it's there's a lot of arrogance in there and stuff, but like, it's not really rocking the boat. You know what I mean? It's not really changing your outlook on life, really. It's not really, you don't put a Drake album on and think it's about to change your life. You put it on because it's generally liked. So you got a bunch of people trying to be homogenized, that want to be liked, that want to be Drake in a sense, and it's always going to be people that are going to be generally liked. But, it's like, what do you want? Would you rather be liked and not really be yourself? Or now you're Drake and now you're breeding with a chick that has fake titties? And, is that what you want? You know what I mean? Is that what you really want? Do you want to be liked, or do you want to be true? Because the more that, people want to be liked, it creates that scarcity. And then it's just like diamonds. They got that fake scarcity that was perpetuated by the use. So you got this fake scarcity with diamonds. Now diamonds seem valuable. Being liked seems way more valuable than it actually is. Truth is actually way more valuable and always will be. So, it's just about, realizing or knowing, whatever, and having that discernment. So I wanted to, use the rest of this time, I guess, to I'm going to go in on the different avenues that the use control, and then I'm going to take questions. So, and again, I was talking about, like I said, the Khazars. They converted to Judaism because they didn't want to be under the Christian Byzantines, and they didn't want to be under the Muslim Caliphate. So they just politically converted, not because of faith just manifested overnight. It was political. And most of these people that call themselves Jews today are descendants of people that made a political decision, not a faith decision. It was a strength in numbers decision. They knew they weren't going to convert to some obscure faith. In this way, now they get to commune with Ethiopian Jews, all the different Jews, that people that call themselves Jews are the tribe of Judah around the world. So they saw the benefit in that. It wouldn't make sense to be like Baha'i. They wouldn't. Why would the Khazars convert to Baha'i? They couldn't use that in a military industrial complex like they could Judaism. So it's the same thing with Ye. He's now knows that he's made enough money, and he's in that gang, like he said, Jesus gang. He's with that gang, which is, you got a cool couple billion people that are with that gang. A lot of them are going to agree with you. A lot of them is really cryptos that will not agree with you, but you're always having a base there, strength in numbers, to be able to be shielded and insulated from the attacks. He'll be able to work with the enemies of his enemy. He'll be able to go do shows in Dubai and shows in Qatar, because they're not going to care, about relations with Israel, the same as, a show in New York, So, or New Jersey. They're not going to, then he's going to be able to work with them. So he knows like which gang. He's picked his gang. People operating in a gang mentality, against lack, a scarcity mentality, feeling small, being afraid. So, if people realize how powerful the small was, then we could actually transform this place and not just keep changing it from $1 to 4 quarters to 10 dimes to 20 nickels, 100 pennies. People want change, but it's not. You want transformation. So people constantly just clicking up in gangs instead of just you know being themselves and operating from that and not getting outside of that and not getting ahead of themselves. Because that's so much of it. It's getting ahead of yourself. You actually get behind, you know, and then you don't let your breath catch you. You're getting behind on your breathing, and now you're like backlogged on breathing. And then if you die like that, then you're in a state of lack and desire. So you're just going to desire to come back in the same loop. So I just want to go into the points though that you made is true, man. Like you look at banking, obviously, right? They let Epstein have an account. J.P. Morgan let Epstein have an account. How come they debanked Ye? And they let Epstein have an account because he's part of that gang, Um, yeah, like I feel like you look at porn. You look at porn. Look at any of the people that are putting up the money, the studios for porn, all use, and they call themselves atheists. So many of these people, like again, like I said, you talking about politics earlier. You got Warnock in Georgia, and then you got Fetterman in Pennsylvania, and so you got your lesser of two evils on both tickets in a sense. Herschel, bred with a pale person. I would still rather go with Herschel over Warnock, but Herschel bred with a pale person, he's bound. Warnock obviously bound because he's with the lefties, with the commies. And then you got Fetterman, he's a potato in Pennsylvania. Fetterman, he's another U. And he's going against Mehmet Oz, another U. Really, just a crypto U. These are all crypto U's, right? You know what I mean? So, and it's so deep in the bloodline. If you go back 200 years, and the recessive is back 200 years. Say like, if your great grandmom bred with a recessive, and now you are, whatever you are, you might even be dark skinned. The recessive is still there, and as soon as you start to feed that dog and go in that direction, you start to operate from the recessive, from the negative, from the you mindset or presence rather, and it starts to work through you to where they can continue to have an existence. So like it's a graft. So it's constantly trying to regraft itself so that it can continue to be existing for another 200 years. So it's like an okie doke, it intercepted Kanye's seed, a program intercepted Kanye's seed. So then now that, that seed line gets to exist for like another 100 years through his kids. Because people are not going to kill Kanye's kids. They're not going to, even if you hate Kanye and you're not going to kill his kids, but his kids now carry that seed line along with Kanye's, but they also carry the recessive now too. So now it's getting pushed on, gets another 100 years to shadow that trajectory of consciousness, that light. It's shadowing that light. So as it continue, as his kids start to reincarnate, it's shadowing them and then trying to nudge them in a direction to where it can make them breed a certain way down the line, to where it can come back into the game and do the whole thing over and over again. Parasites all live in loops, man. Like you see the one parasite jump from a worm to a grasshopper, and then the grasshopper gets eaten by the bird. It's constantly trying to get to a bigger, stronger vessel to expand that loop. So, yeah, like I said, though, you look at the porn industry, the studios are all the used, though. You look at any of the media, mostly used or compromised, soul-bound, compromised aboriginals, like your Tyler Perrys of the world. You got it's just so many. That's really what it is, man. For anything, let me go down the line, man. Politics, obviously, news, all of it. Sports, like you had the dude from the Clippers. The dude from the Clippers, I forget his name. Like Kanye was saying, man, like they talk about. He's saying if a car full of black people get pulled over, one person got drugs, they all go to jail, right? That's what he was saying, right? Everybody else gets this shame on their name. But if a U does something good, then the whole all of the U's benefit from it because it's really a hive mind. But anyway, it's the same thing, man. It's the same thing with sports. Like I was saying, the dude from the Clippers, he was talking about how they look down upon the dark Israelites. He was like, "Nah, I don't. You know what I mean? That we treat them like dogs." And then it got recorded, right? And then he was no longer allowed to be the owner of the Clippers. But nobody's looking at like, yo, Mark Cuban, that's your boy, or any of these owners. They're not looking at like, yo, that's your boy. I know you guys are boys. Like, y'all was boys. How come y'all all not, being reprimanded, or we not, having to talk to all of y'all? Like, do you feel like this? Is this how you think? But now they all get ahead of it, and they all act because they have the media. The U's got the media on their side, and they act like this is just one isolated individual that feels this way. It's not the case, man. Obviously, um, that's just like saying that, like, there's only one dark dude saying cracker in his home at night by, with his family or whatever, or by himself. That's ridiculous to think that. You know what I mean? They in their homes saying all types of things that you obviously know. So like, it is what it is, man. It's just it's tribal wire. And oh yeah, what I was gonna say about Deuteronomy 4 and 5 through 9. It just talks about the converts. I was gonna say that earlier today about the Khazars converting, and how like you have this true line, and then you have the converts, which are called strangers actually, or whatever. So I think that's about it. At this point, man, if you're not homosexual or anti-sexual, and you are not an atheist, you're a conservative, my friend. At this point, at this point, you are. You don't let them fool you. They just want your, to buy your vote, your energy, and everything like that. But nah, you're a conservative if you have any faith in God, and if you aren't anti-sexual. And like I was saying on my Facebook the other day, though, the U.S. is the biggest producer of oil in the world. They produce more oil than any other. Look at the numbers. It's USA, Russia, and Saudi Arabia, I believe. So USA totally determines its destiny if it wants. But you have a situation here where we're all being controlled by, again, Standard Oil. Standard Oil was a company that got broken up into multiple companies. It's like 5 companies. And who was it ran by? I'll just let you, you know what I mean? And then you have also Vanderbilt. The Vanderbilts were controlled by the Netherlands, because again, New York was New Amsterdam. That's why they call it New York. So the Vanderbilts were controlled by the West India Company, and the Vanderbilts obviously controlled the railroads, and then you had Huntington too, was controlling the railroads in California, but they ripped up the rail lines so that people would have to buy more cars, right? Then they used the ingenuity of the melanated in Detroit to design these vehicles, and then they created an infrastructure there, and then pulled the rug out and sent the infrastructure off abroad. And then the same thing with oil, where now it's not like they want to save the world or anything like that, because the oil's still getting pumped. You're just paying more for it. It's not like they're not just outsourcing it instead of drilling for it here, because it's probably a bunch of families that own the oil, and America don't even own its own oil politically. Where the Aboriginals should be in control of the oil, the real Aboriginals, not the Mongols. So that's just one of many points I wanted to get at throughout this thing. And also, if you haven't checked them out, Charleston White, man. Charleston White, I think Charleston White is going to get every parent on his side at some point. And I think you see the things kind of, the storm kind of bubbling. You got the souls like Charleston White and Kanye. And then, you got a program like myself, And you see like how, this whole thing is congealing and kind of starting to change the public perception of things, especially from a parental state, because Charleston White owned Boosie, man, and Ti. He straight up destroyed them. Honestly, I mean, he really did, man. Like he honestly he knows certain things that in the grapevine that other people wouldn't be able to know, and that's why Soul's got that certain advantage they're positioning in the grapevine, and but you see it, the alternative way of looking at things. Like Nipsey brought people to a certain place, and then Charleston White exposed the Nipsey situation, and then he exposed Boosie and all these people. You know what I mean? He's exposing really all the ignorance is being exposed in the culture by Charleston White and Kanye, and then I'm in the shadows, kind of connecting certain dots that I feel like is influencing a lot of people as well when we dream, or what you call dream, when we go back to reality. You know what I mean? I got staying in reality. People know what that means, staying. But no, I got a connection to reality to where, I can influence. So you see Kanye now buying Parler. When I was exclusively on Parler for a while, but they deplatformed it. They dropped the servers. Amazon dropped them from their server farm. And then Google Play dropped them. Then the Apple Store dropped them. And now, as soon as it comes back around, Apple Store and Google Play brought them back around. And Kanye, he knew that was coming, so he figured like, well, I'm gonna just talk my shit while I can, because I'm gonna buy my own platform, and then it really won't matter. And I see they suing him for the Floyd thing, but I don't know. I don't know nobody that died from asphyxiation that got a closed casket, like, or being choked out like that. Maybe if you got like a crazy asphyxiation where you was hung to where it was so lacerated on your neck that they had to close the casket, but otherwise, why would you have a closed casket for George Floyd? Why would there be a closed casket? And why would, if you look at the footage, why would state troopers pick him up instead of the EMTs? I got my thoughts about it. I don't even think Neff is dead, but that's just my opinion. He could have just got murked afterwards. I don't know, but I just feel like the whole thing is fuckery. Just like I'm not even call it Sandy. I'm gonna call it Beachy Hook, because I can't. You gotta tiptoe. I think there's so much fuckery around that. Same thing with Alex Jones, his defamation lawsuit, which is the biggest defamation lawsuit of all time. $1 billion for defamation is more than any defamation lawsuit ever. It's just not about him. It's about sending a message to everybody else. So, same thing. You got George Floyd's family suing Ye, and if they come back with the toxicology report, it's gonna come out that the fentanyl was in his system to the point where it blew up his heart. And like they say, if you can breathe, you can't yell. And if you can't breathe, you can't yell. Talking is loud breathing. So you can't scream if you know what I mean? You can't say anything if you actually really truly being choked out. But that's neither here nor there. I really don't feel like Neff is dead, honestly. Because the EMTs, if somebody was actually dead, they would leave your body there. They leave your body there as a crime scene. So they would come and check his pulse, but this guy's dead. Or they try to resuscitate him if he wasn't dead. They just picked him up crudely. The state troopers picked him up crudely and threw him in an ambulance, and then they drove off. And said it wasn't no EMTs. If you look at the footage, I'll send the footage to people that don't know. I got it. If you find me on Facebook Messenger, Tao Lore, TAOLORE, on Facebook Messenger, I'll send you the footage if you think I'm bullshitting. He was not picked up by no EMTs. He got picked up by state troopers. And again, the toxicology report said it was, that's what exploded his heart. The drug, the fentanyl. I don't know. It's neither here nor there. I don't even think dude is dead. That's just how I feel. But regardless, I'm saying like it's all the timing. You see the timing of it. You see Kanye jumping from lily pad to lily pad. He knew as soon as he went to Tucker Carlson, he gave like a light version of what he wanted to say to get that across. And it's all political right now. We got 20-something days to the midterms. All of this is completely timed and contrived. None of this is by accident. He knew as soon as I say certain things, I'm going to get deplatformed. Parler is back on the Google App Store and the Google Play Store and the Apple Play Store. So now it's available. People can get it on their Androids and their iPhones. Because that's the thing. It's about the worldview too. If you deplatform Parler from the Google Play Store, then people can't get it on their Androids. Most people in the world got Androids because they're too broke to have iPhones. You go to these places around the world, a lot of people don't have iPhones, man. A lot of people are broke, man. A lot of people don't even have 4G in different parts of this world. So if you take something out of the Google Play Store, then you're taking that shit away from Bangladesh, from Egypt, from different places that are, they have iPhones that are there, but that's not the dominant phone being used. So now that it's back in the Play Store and everything, or you could always sideload it, but now that it's back in, and Candace Owens' husband, who's running it, now Kanye bought it. So, and I was on Parler for years. So now, you see, he's like, I'm gonna talk my shit, give the light version of it so that white America or pale America can hear this in a homogenized way. And then I'm gonna say the real shit on LeBron shit. LeBron is so compromised that he'll never say. He's so bouletted out. There's this dude too on YouTube. You search America is Egypt and click on that channel. America is Egypt. It's a 10-part series. He got a whole series about the boule, just crushing dudes. Marcus Garvey was a sellout again, or not really a sellout because he was really a black British. So you got all these people. He came and said like, yo, the black man needs to go back to Africa. He never been to Africa a day in his life. So the black man of America needs to go back to Africa. And so he was telling people, he made the Black Star Line. He was trying to get people to go back to Liberia, and it never happened. He was just there as a plant being used. It's the same thing as LeBron, man. They all boule. You know what I mean? So it's different tribes, man. You gotta be able to see the tribes. You can see LeBron's forehead that he is not fully Aboriginal. So you just can look at different people, man. You can see, like, you know what I mean? It's dead giveaways, live giveaways. So you can see he went on LeBron shit, the shop or whatever, got canceled on that. Then he went from that to Drink Champs. And again, Capone is my man. Capone is my brother, is one of my brother's best friends. And for y'all that don't know, Noriega was in a group called Capone and Noriega. CNN, the real CNN. So Capone, like, I'm not far away from these people in influence. As far as the dreams go, I'm even less than, oh, my fingernail dirty. I'm less than any distance. I'm right up on them in the dreams. I'm what, like they say, the 7 degrees of separation theory or whatever, the Kevin Bacon thing. How many people are you away from somebody? Everybody's connected within like 6 or 7 degrees, 6 or 7 people. Kanye is one person away. I know Capone well. I see Nori like once a year. Kanye, we talk about other means. And I'm saying, like, it's not, the connection is there. It's already been forged. So we have a common ancestor, really. So, so he goes to Drink Champs and says, all this shit because he knew, like, I jumped from Tucker Carlson's. I said the homogenized the light version. Then I go to the shop, get canceled on there. Then I go to Drink Champs, say a lot of the real shit I wanted to say. And then I buy Parler because I know I'm going to get deplatformed after that. And then Nori's got to do the apology campaign just to keep the shit up for 48 hours so that enough people can see it. All of this shit is timed. It is not like by mistake. Everybody working together at some level, what people call an awakening or a realization, a re-arrival is happening and nobody can do anything about it. Whether they know that they're a conduit or they do know that they're actively a part of it, everybody's a part of it at some level at this point. Whether you coming down on Kanye hard and you're JP Morgan and you think I'm punishing you, you're just waking more people up to their dreams. So, like, the purge is happening, obviously, and we're going to go through these detox symptoms. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, he bought Parler. You're going to have there's more of a draw to Parler. The George Floyd documentary is going to expose BLM even more. And so it's going to be out there in the grapevine that they use the suffering of melanated peoples to promote an agenda that does not benefit them.
and you got a lot of wolves in sheep clothing all over the place. And so the restructuring of the world is taking place. It's just, you know, some people are going to die with the lie. So obviously, the war is at some point, it probably is going to get more and more kinetic as the days go on. We're going to get closer and closer to kinetic war. And, we're kind of already in that in a sense with the way the crime is going, with the way the border is. It's just gonna get crazier and crazier as by the end of the decade we got 600 million people in America. Half of them don't speak English as a first language. It's anything to create buffers between the Aboriginals and each other themselves. So they just letting other people come in, trying to get them to influence them to vote lefty because they're getting benefits from the left as they come in. So that's why you got $90 million spent on Warnock's campaign in Georgia to smear Herschel, because he stands in the way of blocking that agenda for the next 2 years. So the two ways this thing can go is that the House and the Senate get taken back by the right, and then you get a bunch of the media spin, the pandemic bullshit, whatever they can pull with the oil, because that's all they can control. They can control the price of oil by shutting down the drilling permits and shutting down oil pipelines like he did the Keystone Pipeline, made oil jump overnight. So they're going to do the war on the population is going to continue, but it's going to go so much harder after January. Right now, they're going to prop up this stock market through midterm so you can kind of get lulled to sleep, so you don't think it's so crazy to pay $5-6 for gas or whatever you paying. And the whole abortion thing, they're going to go hard with that. All of that's going to get pushed real hard in the next 20 days until this election. And then, like Biden went to Saudi Arabia to try to get them to pump more. It's so many layers to this. He went try to get them to pump more just for a month so he could win the elections, so that people could forget that he's terrible, that he's just a puppet. You know what I mean? But the Saudis are like, no, you guys support Iran. Obama dropped like what, $1.5 billion in cash to the mullahs in Iran. Yeah, it's video of this money, of this physical cash. That's way more of a contribution to inflation than digital, because digital, a lot of that doesn't even reach the population. But to take $1.5 billion in cash and just give it to the mullahs, around, and you control the Saudis' weapon flow. The Saudis are like, well, all we can do is curb this oil flow, because that's the only power that we have left. We can't fight you, America, but you're supporting our nemesis, which is Iran. So, because obviously Biden is a sock puppet for Obama, who's a sock puppet for Soros, who's a sock puppet for the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and all of them, and who's a sock puppet probably for some really, really, really melanated family that controls them all, like a Yakub type deal. So that's what's happening. And so you have this massive IRS expansion and clamp down on economic expansion in this country, to where it's just more and more difficult for the Aboriginal. So, and then you're gonna have this influx of immigrants coming in. So it's like this whole agenda over the next 10 years, and you got Herschel Walker and Mehmet Oz. I don't really trust dude at all, but if they flip them seats, then you get a slow down of that agenda, and then in that case, again, it's like the same thing with Trump, though. It's like Trump is in, so then you do the COVID shit to get him out of there, to get the mail-in ballots and all of that, to do all of that shit, to do the fuckery through that. So it's just going to be some type of fuckery. If the right wins, it's going to be massive fuckery by means of oil production and media fuckery, some type of scamdemic, or some type of financial collapse after this election. If the left wins, it's going to be a calm before the storm. They're going to let people, live a little bit through Christmas into New Year's. And then once they take office in January, and with that dominant House, dominant Congress, and they still retain an executive, oh, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. So I feel like you see what they're doing, and you see what's happening on the other side, where you got your Charleston Whites and your Kanyes, and you got a person like me, people like me, that is in this alignment, that's just getting away from the ignorance. I think y'all should listen to Charleston White, what he had to say about Boosie, man. I really don't want to speak for that dude, but I feel like y'all should check Charleston White out, man. So with that said, I'm gonna take y'all questions. Say for real, here in Florida, it's changing rapidly. No cap. Whites and blacks are the minority. It legit feels like 70% Latino. Yeah, no, I know, man. Um, and they're just using them as a political weapon. It's not like you should just hate these Mongol Sephardics that call themselves Latinos. Not like you should just hate them, but they're being used and positioned against you. So it's like, it's a crazy. They're playing chess with people's lives. It's fucked up, you know. The queen ain't dead because the queen works through these queen men. Um, the feminine. I don't want to say woman. It's the feminine. The matrix is matriarchal. That's why you have the Queen of England, the Queen of the Netherlands. It's matriarchal. Or even if you have a king, he's a feminized male, and the queen parasite works through him. All parasites, tapeworms, all them shits, they all have a queen that they run that controls the hive. Are the Moors and Aboriginals one and the same or different people? The Moors are not the same as the Aboriginals. They have interbred at this point a lot to where a lot of people you can't even tell the difference. But no, the Moors is not the same. The Moors is not the same as an Aboriginal. A Moor is again, a Moor is a collection of people, and the word Moor is like rigor mortis or Sodom and Gomorrah or anything mortgage. More is not the best word really in general, but it's not the same. They've interbred so much though. You have a lot of Moors that have bred so much. You got 44 million supposed black people in America. A lot of them have crossbred with Moors, so it's kind of hard to separate at this point. But no, they're not the same. The Moors is pirates, man. Do you have any resources to research the mantras you listed in your breathwork detox video? The Metu Neter series by Raun Nefer Amen, 1-7. Metu Neter, Metuneter. Will gold and silver be useless because of economic collapse? No, I mean, silver is always useful because you could use it. You can use silver to make colloidal silver. You can use it to charge water. Same thing with gold. So it's always going to have a value to it. And I feel like you should always hedge against inflation with a physical currency and an ethereal currency as well, whether it's Bitcoin or you just playing a speculation game with other currencies, whatever. You want to have everything that you can have: bullets, seeds, all of it. I mess with Charleston White. He the truth. What he said, they're not gonna say. Yeah, man. Charleston White been deplatformed heavily as well. Charleston White is that dude, man. He be saying real shit. He's just anti-ignorance, for the most part. Is that we gotta be able to have a discussion, a real discussion. We could all get in the same room, with Kanye's connections and his money, Charleston White's connections to the grapevine and his perspective and his experiences, and then somebody like myself, Pharaoh, different people get in a discussion in a room to where we could really bridge these gaps. Because Charleston White eats garbage, and he be smoking blunts, but he be saying real shit though. I like the part where you said if a principle is not discovered, it will be disrespected. Thank you. So is the desire to breed with a pale person my destruction, even if they're a soul? You got to look at it like, if your bloodline. You got to really do your research on your bloodline and their bloodline. And whenever you merging with someone, you got to look at it like I can't separate my child. Imagine if somebody said you can't see your grandparents. Your mom or your dad's like, nah, you can't see your grandparents. So you need to be able to breed with someone that you are uh, congruent with with who your child's grandparents would be, with your parents-in-law, and you need to be able to have conversations, real conversations with these people. If you can't have real conversations with them, you should not be breeding with their family. And I bet you, with most of them situations, you're not going to be able to have real conversations. You're going to have to edit yourself, and why do that? You're going to have to live and edit. Are you open to answering questions on this live? Yes. If you had an abortion, does your consciousness still go down the line? You had an abortion, so like you killed yourself because abortion is suicide at some level. So there's a lot of repentance that has to go on with that. It's a lot of undoing. Um, you're gonna have to find a way to clear your body enough to where you can commune with that being and really identify who that being was gonna be, and you can reconcile with them. And so through that process you reconcile with yourself. So you're gonna have to really have clear dreams. I didn't say omission is silent lying. Omission is silent lying. Thoughts on Tate Ban? I don't know. I mean, he's over on Getter. I'm over on Getter. He's one of the only people I follow. I don't really be on there following people. I just post though. I don't know. Anybody saying real shit's gonna get banned. You know what I mean? Like I said, I really wish he would just take care of himself differently. You can tell he busts nuts. I wouldn't want to be with a female that is into getting slapped around. It's kind of showing you your state of your consciousness. It really was a draw from a lot of people, even though I know it was bullshit and fuckery. It's like, yo, if you weren't fucking with a bitch that is self-hating like that, because you self-hating at some level, because you busting nuts, if you weren't doing that, then people wouldn't have had this this massive distraction campaign. Like, oh, I mean, now I can just judge him and write him off. But since you were self-hating, they have that avenue to do that. What did you say about deplatforming? A bunch of stuff. If you got booted to another country in your dreams, keep residing in the country you were in. The country that you came from, I guess then you're not fully there. I mean, you're just gonna have to do whatever makes you present now to where you defrag and all your cells become present wherever you're at, and you can move from that place. And by place, I mean reality. Just have a child, you'll literally love it. Speak for yourself. I'm not saying that you won't, but speak for yourself. How should you start safely fasting if you currently eat a crap diet? Fast till 4. I always say that, fast till 4 or dry till 4 if you could, but fast till 4. Water till 4, and then have your first meal or whatever, and then don't eat again after 7, and then you just gradually uh, incorporate breath work and herbs and keep those in your routine until you won't try. You don't have to try to fast. It will just happen. So you back like you left something, bro. Yeah, I'm back, man. I'm suspended for another 3 days on fucking YouTube. YEW tube. If you know what I mean. Having kids ensures you will respawn into something better as long as you choose a good partner and build a good life. But what if your kids ruin what you built and taught? Um, Only reason that you would do that is if you were ignoring something. Your kids, like I said, if you have a kid out of ignorance, they're gonna come and show you what you ignored and destroy the things that you built out of vanity. Only things that nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Only things that are not real can be destroyed. You can't destroy what you didn't create. You got to convince it to destroy itself. Have you been well? What you up to at the moment in your life? Man, I'm good, man. I really am good. A lot of projects coming up. I'm making a bunch of things. I really don't like to talk about things that's in the works though. But check me out on Getter. I'm getting this Patreon off the ground, my individual Patreon, and I got a Rumble now, Tao Lore, TAOLORE. I'm gonna be doing some things. I'll see my sister in a week, and we'll be doing some things together. And I'll just talk about what I'm doing in the future from that point once I get on the video with her. So does Yakub's people still run the world? Yakub's people are obviously created by Yakub, so they are being ran. They don't run anything. They're just programs. You run a program, right? You turn a program on and it's running, right? It's like a tab. Um, so it's something that was created by Yakub. Yakub, obviously, for those who don't know, they say he wanted to create an anti-person, an inverted person to attract true people so that he could, distract them with that magnetic attraction and usurp the power in the world. So that's who these RH negatives are. And some RH negatives are really just open vessels, you know what I mean? And so it's like an anomaly. Like Neo was the anomaly. Like I'm an anomaly in the sense that I was exposed to certain things to where I can't behave a certain way. I've seen certain reality. So it's like, um, it's like you can have a bunch of dogs that's controlled by owners after breed after breed. They breed them and breed them after generation and generation. Then you have one dog that just don't listen. If the Democrats win in 2024, what will possibly happen? Is there a chance we don't make it that far? Oh, this is a process, man. They're not gonna. They don't want to kill people. They want to drain your energy, so they want to keep you not in the moment, draining you, and just siphoning your energy. Keeping you in fear, so that you drain your emotional energy with the fear. Then you eat food because you're tired, because you're drained, and then the food is like a roofie when you sleep, and then you get your energy drained while you're sleeping, and then yeah, that's kind of what it's all about, man. So it's a process. This whole renaissance or whatever you want to call this is a process. What do you think about celebrity meat? We're celebs out there sells. We are celebs out there sells into the makeshift factory plant meat. Oh, like clones. I think you should just watch Cloud Atlas. The and then you can look up the word Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. It's a Yiddish word. It's like certain people are going to be your friends. I forget which one is Gemeinschaft, I think. And then Gesellschaft is the people that you would breed with. And it's ordained. And it's like already set out for you by your whoever is your duplicator or your cloner. So if a parasite celebrity has been duplicated a bunch of times, then they already kind of know that they're just an organism that is kind of like a starfish or kind of like a tapeworm, where you cut a tapeworm and cut a piece of it off, and it grows into another tapeworm. So there's really no separation. That's why, like Pharaoh was always saying that they don't have fathers. The clones don't have fathers because they were created like the orphan trains. Anybody knows about the orphan trains? The clones, just mainly Rh negatives. They don't have fathers because obviously their father is pretty much science. So they just clone. A clone doesn't have a father, so it just has a baby, and that's just another clone fragment. So it's like a hive mind. So and a parasite is basically eating itself. Snake eating its own tail, eating itself, and being eaten. So it would make sense that they're being recycled and used as organ donors and being used as meat or whatever. But the fake meat is definitely going to have the human meat injected into it, like Soylent Green at some point. The recension process is what Pharaoh talks about. I don't know. You got to talk to Pharaoh about that. It's called recension. You're getting rid of all your phony IDs and your association with that. Your straw man. What does it mean when you receive encrypted messages or messages you can't remember in dreams? I can't remember everything else vividly. Encrypted messages means that you're not communicating clearly with yourself, and there's the lack of trust there, probably because you're carrying something, parasite or something. So yourself has to communicate metaphorically or cryptically so that you can decipher it maybe as weeks go on. And it's it's just not direct. You're not being direct with yourself in your conscious state. So you're not not being direct in the super conscious state, what they call dreams. People stay pushing like, oh, have kids, it will change your life. But what if if I don't want kids? Damn. I don't know, man. It's different strokes for different folks, man. It's got to be really done correctly. You got to really, if the creation comes upon you too, I feel like if you reject it, it's just as bad as having kids when you shouldn't. I think if you are approached with that, that's on your course and you reject it, I think it's just as bad as having kids when you shouldn't have kids or with the wrong person. Any reason why every time I trip, helicopter fly over my crib, cops stay cruising my block? I even had a black helicopter hovering over my backyard while I was tripping, smoking a blunt. I don't know, man. It's all attraction. If you're giving off that openness, if you're tripping, you're probably open, so other things can work through you and use your antenna. So who knows what it can connect with in the grid, in the Ethernet. Could you explain the significance of inaudible breath during breath work? Silent breath, if you're fasting and you're doing silent breath and you're in darkness, you're just going to get more in touch with your being, your eternal being, the part that doesn't change, the unchanged. Everything that can be separated, like when light is on, when you eat light, which is food, then there's separation in the body. The bowels have separated. There's space now separated. You turn the lights on, or the sun comes up, you can see that this is a chair, this is the floor, this is me. There's separation. But in that utter darkness, complete darkness, there's only oneness. So, and if there's silence, then the breath isn't heavy, then you can perceive that oneness even greater. Who are the real yous? Mongolians, good or bad bloodlines? Mongolians, from what I can see, are probably Magog, probably Japhethites. Japheth or Japheth, Magog and Gog. I think that's who the Mongolians are, Magogians. And that's just from my research, it brought me to that place. So the real yous would be the Aboriginals, real Israel. Jerusalem isn't a place. Jerusalem is the body of the Aboriginals of the world, and specifically the American Aboriginal, because that's where the immortal cell lines come from. If you Google immortal cell line, it's an American Aboriginal, and it's not an African. There's no immortal cell lines that have been found in Africa. They're found in the American so-called blacks. So they call it a cancer cell, but a cell is a cell. Even whether it's cancerous or healthy, it's a cell. And so, the immortal bloodline comes through the Aboriginal, especially in the Southeast. But all over the Americas, the Aboriginal it has the immortal cell line more than anybody else on Earth. Why is the Spanish language so fast? Some say because the Spanish cities are clustered, people are adapt to faster speech, but New York English isn't like that. Is it possible Spaniards have no patience? If you go to Spain, it's different than the Latin Americans. Just like how you go to England and they speak different, slower English than us. So it's really just different tongues. Having a child is a privilege and an extra, so is being a grandfather and mother. Again, speak for yourself. You can't speak for every being that way. Some people are not supposed to do it, Some people, they're just not, that's not part of their path. Stopped smoking weed a few months ago. I started smoking since high school, 8 years plus. And before I quit, I had random trips while smoking, so I decided to stop. What could have caused it? Weed is a hallucinogen, man. If you stop for years and go back to it, you'll see it's a hallucinogen. I mean, if you fast and then do breath work, it's like a shroom trip. If you fast extensively, especially dry fast, and then do extensive breath work, you're gonna get the colors and all of that going on, and that you see all of the, when you open your eyes, you see all of the colors and the fabric of the light and everything. You'll see all of that. Thoughts on ozone O3 therapy and hyperbaric chambers. I discussed this before. That's what got me into the breath early is hyperbaric chambers. Like I'm from New Jersey. I got a lot of Eagles games growing up, and T.O. was doing the hyperbaric chambers to heal Terrell Owens, and that's when I was first approached with it. So by the time, when I was playing ball, so I was just getting into things that would make me healthier. So that's how I got into veganism and the breath. It all seemed like it would give me an edge, but it made me not give a fuck about football. So it made me care about things that actually matter. But yeah, it definitely can help. How long does it take to get the energy of someone you had sex with out of your body? At least 100 days. At least 100 days. If not, depends on how you eat though, and how much breath work you do, and how much stillness you get, and how much real silence you get. Not being around them waves, the electromagnetic pollution, but at least 100 days. Some people might take years, man. Depends on the attachment to the personality that you had, that you bagged them with, or that you connected with them with. I was wondering if you had any consideration in removing Oni energy. I don't know nothing about it, to be real. I mean, I might know it under a different name, so I don't know. Do you think that slave trade happened the way history books state? No, I do not. I feel like they came in. It was a massive war in this place. A lot of people got their parents killed. Then they got moved around. They got moved all around. And so they got taken from their parents. Say if you're a child in South Carolina and you got taken from your parents got killed. Because it was massive wars. You got the Moors coming in. You got all different people coming in. They were all warring, on the Aboriginal. So either through slow war, through interbreeding, or through actual kinetic war. So a lot of the people that were called slaves, some people got brought here, but a lot of people that got called slaves were people that just got taken from their parents and then brought to some other part of America, and then they just, as a child, then they tell them like, "Oh, you come from Africa," and they never know. So the first slave came with the Spanish in 1545, and I don't even think he was a black dude, but I think my dog is about to end this. I'm on smoothies right now. Okay, Prana. I love you, girlie. Come on, it's okay. Is mastering celibacy, mastering loneliness or isolation? Yeah, you shouldn't want anything, man. You should just do what makes sense, Like if creation is presenting itself and it all makes sense, love without logic is going to burn out. But if you have logic there, then you could create a trajectory to have a child and experience the alignment with the creator and create like that. And then, experience that. But, if that's not there, then you shouldn't be wanting sex. Like people ask me, all the time, like about having kids and stuff. I'm like, well, you have the person with you? And they're like, no, I'm just single. I'm like, well, then don't think about it. Just get on to what you need to get on until it just happens. Or if it doesn't happen, then it's just not supposed to happen. You know what I mean? But when you meet someone like that on that level, life is going to kind of force you to speak up to them and talk to them. It's not like you're going to be able to get out of life not talking to them. If you do the things that bring you in the room with them or bring you in their radius, it's going to happen. You're going to make contact. If you really take care of yourself a certain way, you're going to meet somebody that's going in that same direction. Or if you're doing what you love, you're going to meet somebody that, you love probably, or that loves you. Any fasting tips for struggling faster? Put breath work first in the day, and then water, and then sun, and then just gradually work with the elements that way. Just like the body, you know what I mean? Ether chakra. Then you got the heart, you get your fire, then you get your water. So the fire is the sun, soul. solar plexus. So then you get the water, um, which would be your lunar, really. So that would be the next element, and then the most densest element would be Earth. So um, you just got to respect the elements. Do I speak? Do I think ancestors speak through animals? Yeah, my dog died on my dad's mom's birthday, and then this year something happened that really liberated me of something on that same day. So I think one way or another the connections is there, um, for sure. Yeah, no, the first slaves were pale people. You look at Neanderthal means new man. It was a new creation, something that was created to be a slave, you know? And just like any dog, though, like a Chihuahua is designed to kill mice and rats. If it can't do what it's designed to do, it's going to be miserable. It's going to act out. It's going to bark. It's going to be yippity. It's not going to do, it's going to be miserable. So things that aren't in their purpose, they're going to be parasites. So if you make a bunch of things that really have specific purposes and they're operating outside of that, then you're gonna have a lot of parasites. Favorite fruits: mango, banana, papaya, or berries. Honeydew. I like fruits, man. I fuck with fruits, but um, if I'm eating the fruit itself, probably honeydew. Maybe row top dates. Row top dates, though. Those are the shit. I think that's it, man. So yeah, I think that's it. I just want to say, I mean, I got a bunch of these joints though, man. Humbly assertive. I got a bunch of these joints. If anybody see on my IG, I got a bunch of hoodies and everything, flip flops, hats, yoga mats, whatever, with all of the different one liners that I made over the years, or whatever you want to put on it. I can do it. Do sweatsuits. Um, I got a bunch of dope shit. So that's really about it. I think that concludes what we had to say. What I had to say. I don't know how long this has been, but thank you for tuning in. And check the questions one more time. Do you believe healthy sex is possible, long-term partner? Healthy sex would be creative. You practicing for a creation. Yeah, but the original, even if you go look at like I said, so white people were made to be slaves. You look at the original Neanderthal. Even they come from a dark people, and then you inbreed them more and more and more, and then you create a more hollow vessel. Because any mammal that inbreeds is going to be pale. So you got pale nappy-headed people, you got pale straight-haired people, you got dark straight-haired people. It's really, you can look at it like, yeah, the pale people are grafts, you know what I mean, that are there to serve a purpose, or to be a parasite purpose, to show everybody what's wrong. Building, maintaining strength while living a fasting reductionist lifestyle. For building strength, I really just do things seasonally. I feel like I just work out a lot more in the spring and in the early summer, and then as the summer winds down, I teeter off, and then in the fall, I have another little spurt, and then by the time the beginning of winter hits, I do a rest period, and then I start to get back into, and after a few weeks, I get back into light workouts until I start working out more intensely. I'm not working out the same all year. So my body kind of just stays in place after years and years or decades of this now, like 20 years of this now. The best book on Tantra is 2020 Tantra, to be real. I've read a lot of Montauk Chia's work. He has some decent stuff, but again, it's somebody that's speaking from a hypothetical place, not really from, or Order in the Bedroom. I made another book called Order in the Bedroom, but uh Montauk Chia, I feel like, has some great insights, but a lot of that is not from an experience. You can tell that there's a person that has not really mastered it. Somebody that obviously probably retaining a lot better than others, but they're not really mastering, like never doing it unless they really want to create. What is your advice on maintaining the discipline to practice breath work and meditation daily? Also to stay raw, vegan, and fast instead of following the old path. You got to prioritize. Are you prioritizing the fear? If you got to get up at 4 a.m. to do breath work, you got to do breath work at the beginning of the day. So get up earlier if you don't have time. Create more time, and then you create more energy or realize more energy, because energy, you eating food to fill the gaps so that your energy can now touch again. So you have a void in your body, and now you feel experience hunger because the energy is not communicating. The cells aren't breathing and communicating. So you eat to fill that spot, and then now the energy can now channel through better because that space is filled. It's like a car with an exhaust leak. It can't really run. It has terrible fuel economy because it has that exhaust leak, that pocket of air not going through it smoothly. So you, when you eat, you're not eating to get energy. You're just reminding yourself of energy. So really, it's just about realizing the energy by doing breath work early, first in the thing in the day. And as you do that, you realize more energy, and then you'll create more time for it, and then you'll reorganize your whole life. German new medicine. Somebody sent me some of that stuff, but I haven't really got dived into it that much. Dry and water fasting. Dry fasting gives you more of a kidney break and bladder break. I think that you can live, if you're in a pristine environment, you can live without water, because atmospheric water generators are a thing. Anything that was created comes from the mind of man, invented comes from the mind of man, and also the body of man, because the body is the mind in 3D, and anything that you can create is something that exists inside of you. You create a speaker, it mimics the ears. You create a camera, it mimics the eyes, so on and so forth. So you make an exhaust system, it mimics your bowels. So everything is possible. You just have to tap into it more. It's going to take complete dedication to get to that point, though. You have to really change your life gradually for the next like 21 to 30 years, so that you can, because when people die in old age, they just stop eating and drinking and then they die. But you want to stop well before that point, where you're gradually eating and drinking less and less and less, and then you're more in touch with that state, to where you can just drop that body, move on to the next one, and transition smoothly, and not transition like decrepitly and broke down and in pain. Like they say, fruit falls when it's ripe, sweet and ripe, not when it's tired. You want to be ripe. Ways to stay in the moment: breath work, your childhood crafts, anything that creates better circulation. The more curly the hair, the more solar. The more straight the hair, the more lunar. But again, people have crossbred so much and are so almost chimeric at this point that some people are souls with lunar hair. You know, so that's it. Check me out on Getter. Um, Tails Tao on Getter. TAYLS TAO. Tails Tao on YouTube. I'll be back on there in like 3 days to upload this. And then Tails Tao on Instagram, obviously. And that's it. I'll talk to y'all. Oh, and I'll just talk to y'all when my sister gets here.